It was a week ago that I announced we would be holding a hearing on gun violence. That same day, there was a horrible string of shootings in Atlanta, Georgia, that claimed the lives of 8 victims. Last night, I was putting the finishing touches on my statement and questions, and there was another unspeakable mass shooting, this time in a grocery store in Boulder, Colorado. According to the preliminary news reports, at least 10 people were killed in Boulder last night. They included a police officer, Eric Talley. He was reportedly the first officer on the scene. Officer Talley was the father of 7. It's devastating. These victims and their loved ones are worthy of our thoughts and our prayers. But there's more that's required. We face a pandemic of coronavirus. We have another epidemic in America called guns. I could ask for a moment of silence for the mass shooting in Boulder last night, and after that is completed, I could ask for a moment of silence for the shooting in Atlanta 6 days ago. And after a minute, I could ask for a moment of silence for the 29 mass shootings that occurred this month in the United States. But in addition to a moment of silence, I would like to ask for a moment of action, a moment of real caring, a moment when we don't allow others to do what we need to do. Prayer leaders have their important place in this, but we are Senate leaders. What are we doing? What are we doing other than reflecting and praying? That's a good starting point. That shouldn't be our end point. Last weekend in the city of Chicago, which I'm honored to represent, 20 people were shot. 20. Dr. Rogers, you know that well. You know what happens in our hometown. 4 of them died. And across the nation, every day, we lose on average 109 American lives to gunfire. 109 suicides, domestic violence shootings, accidental shootings, homicides, and another 200 Americans are injured by guns. The numbers are sobering, and each number is an individual person, a loved one, a neighbor, a friend, a husband, a father, a son, or a daughter. We've seen too many desperate trips to the emergency room, too many funerals, too many families and communities have been scarred forever by gun violence. We've come to accept it as part of American life. Disproportionately, this violence affects people of color. But nobody's immune. We can't keep up with it. I can't change and amend my opening statement to keep up with it. It just keeps coming at us. We are numb to the numbers. Unless we are personally touched, it's just another statistic. That has got to stop. This committee, this hearing, I hope will open a conversation about constitutional, common sense ways to reduce gun violence in America. We see the problem we're up against as a public health crisis. So what should we do about it? We won't solve this crisis with just prosecutions after funerals. We need prevention before shooting. If there's one thing which we should have learned from the COVID-19 pandemic, it's that we face a public health crisis. When we face one, we can reduce the toll of harm with common sense, science-based solution. We should set goals to reduce the number of deaths and shootings, collect and study the data, identify the cause and risk factors, and apply prevention and intervention strategies that makes the numbers come down. We can do this. The fact that guns are lawful products with legitimate uses must not stop us from taking action to reduce gun deaths. Look at opioids. They have a lawful, legitimate use. But Congress recognized the public health catastrophe that resulted from the misuse of opioids, and we did something. While more has to be done, we've stepped up to change laws and pass reforms to prevent abuse and to reduce death. Today's hearings will discuss some common sense steps we can take. Dr. Selwyn Rogers is here. He's a trauma surgeon and a public health expert from the University of Chicago Medicine. He'll discuss efforts underway in Chicago to apply public health solutions to this challenge. I've been proud to work with him to help expand trauma-informed care in health, education, and other community settings, and on the HEAL initiative, which has brought 10 major Chicago hospitals together on a collaborative effort to address root causes of violence in their surrounding neighborhoods. Kids aren't born with a gun in their hands, and they aren't born as members of gangs. Something happens. Dr. Rogers will tell us what he's seen. There's also important legislation pending in this committee to reform gun laws. For example, there are well-known gaps in the federal gun background check system, the gun show loophole, the internet loophole, and more. These gaps make it too easy for felons, abusers, and mentally unstable people to get their hands on guns and harm others. The House-passed bipartisan background checks bill, H.R. 8, would close these gaps. So would the Senate companion bill, which I'm proud to co-sponsor. Polls show that around 90% of Americans support closing the gaps in the background check system. 90%. We're debating this. 90% of the Americans agree on it. So do a majority of gun owners. It's a common sense step that is consistent with the Second Amendment that would save lives. There are other important reform proposals that would reduce the use of guns in domestic violence incidents, promote better information sharing between law enforcement when a background check is denied, support extreme risk protection orders that are in place in 19 states and the District of Columbia, and more. Soon I'll reintroduce the Secure Firearms Storage Act, my bill with Congressman Brad Schneider of Illinois. This bill would help prevent smash and grab burglaries of gun dealers by ensuring that dealers store their guns safely during off-business hours. Today's hearing is just a first step. When I was chair of the Subcommittee on Constitution and Civil Rights in 2013, I chaired several hearings. This year, that subcommittee is under the leadership of Senator Blumenthal, who has promised to hold further hearings on specific ideas and proposals to deal with gun violence. Thanks, Senator Blumenthal, for your leadership. I want to acknowledge as well Senator Feinstein. Senator Feinstein, over the years, you've been a real leader on these issues. We thank you for being here. Your personal life experience, which you've recounted to us, is something no one would ever want to face. And I'm sure it has changed you forever. But you have come through with resolve to make this a better world and a safer world as a result of it. Thank you for that. I hope we can all agree that the numbers of shooting deaths and injuries are too high. And let's agree that we should take action to bring those numbers down. We're not going to agree on every proposal, but if we share a commitment to reduce gun deaths, some proposals will help. One final word. I want to speak to those watching who've lost loved ones to gun violence, whether it was last night or last week or last year or even longer. Many of them are working tirelessly to help spare other families what they've gone through. I mourn your loss, but I praise and thank you for your advocacy to help others. I hear you, I'm with you, and we will keep working to get this done.